Repentant Boko Haram members are Nigerians, and the federal government has the responsibility to integrate them, says Minister of Police Affairs Maigari Dingyadi. Plus, PDP governors urge National Assembly to rescue Nigeria's democracy. This is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Ann Okon. The Minister of Police Affairs, Maigari Dingyadi, says repentant bandits are Nigerian citizens and the federal government has a responsibility to reintegrate them peacefully and honorably into society. He also said the window is still open for bandits to surrender to the government and be reintegrated into the wider society. Well, joining us to debunk this and break it down is political technocrat Dayo Kayode and security expert Dennis Amakri. Thank you very much, Mr. Amakri, for joining us.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. We've had conversations around, repentant Boko Haram members. I think we talked about it when they initially surrendered, and one returned with the one of the Chibok girls. So the first question is, what's the guarantee that these so-called repentant terrorists are really repentant?
I think from what the minister said, the first question would even be whether they are Nigerians indeed. Because we don't know. For him to say that, they could be given amnesty or forgiveness because they are Nigerians, I think is too hasty. So I think it's very, very important that you profile these guys, screen them properly, and then, of course, you may want to look at the kinds of crimes they committed. And if the crimes were in homicide, killing people, I think they should not just be given forgiveness. There should be consequences, because you can't just go and kill people and come back and say, oh, you've repented, and then you're free. Then we better open all the prisons, the correctional facilities, and ask everybody to leave. Because if they have repented.
Well, but then again, this man seems to be very certain, because he did not say maybe, he did not say could be. He was very certain when he said are Nigerians, meaning that maybe he does have information that you do not have access to, Mr. Makri. Again, it could also mean that maybe they've done some feasibility studies and they've realized that this is the only way they can win the war against banditry and maybe Boko Haram.
With all due respect, I think I disagree with the minister because it is already in the public domain where people, even a governor of Bauchi, to be very specific, had said that these bandits are not Nigerians. They came in from somewhere in the Sahel, in West Africa, to Nigeria. So for the minister to say that they are Nigerians, I think I disagree with him. But, well, as it is, the most important way to find out is to screen them. Screen them, find out who they are, where they come from. I don't think anything will lost anything by doing it like that.
We're being joined by Dayo Kayode. He's a political technocrat. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Kayode. My next question is for you. What qualifies any terrorist for amnesty, especially the case of these bandits? What qualifies them for amnesty and some form of reintegration into society? Mr. Kayode, can you hear me? I don't think he can hear me, so I'm going to throw the question back to Mr. Makri. For a security person, you obviously would know what should and what will qualify any person who has been categorized as a terrorist, whether it's banditry or Boko Haram. What should qualify that person for amnesty?
The experience in Nigeria before, when we have the Niger Delta situation. And when the Niger Delta situation came around, we find out that this group of people, although some people might even call them terrorists because some of their actions were terrorizing the society, although they say they are freedom fighters. But again, before the Nigerian government decided to give them amnesty, there was dialogue, there was talk between them. They have a demand, and that demand was very serious, that it was depleting the number of barrels of oil that we were exporting per day, coming down from 2.5 million barrels a day to 600,000. So the government felt that, look, let's talk with these guys. Maybe they have something to say. And of course, there was an agreement before amnesty was granted. But these are guys who go around burning churches, burning mosques, ripping down villages, killing people anyhow, with no particular objective. And then, of course, we have to learn from Zamfara state governor. He gave amnesty to some of them. They even collected money from him, vehicles from him. And then, of course, what happened? They went back and started continuing what they were doing again. So we cannot say that, this set of people that come and you put out your gun, raise your hand, and then, of course, we'll forgive you. Except the Nigerian government is trying to not, be serious about this fight.
I want to quote the police minister directly. He said, of course, they are criminals, just as you have said. They have committed atrocities. They have committed crimes. But according to international laws, when you surrender from a war, you are not killed. You are not maimed. You are allowed to have your say. And he said, we're listening to them to see how we can integrate them into the larger society. He went on to say, we are trying to do this to get them settled in their various communities. So let them have the kind of means of livelihood so that they can integrate peacefully and honorably into society. I do not see anywhere here where the crimes that they've committed will be addressed. I do not see anywhere here where he's saying we would make sure that because I'm saying this as a result of the fact that soldiers have also fallen in, the line of battle. There are victims of these terrorists in society, that same society that they want them to be reintegrated to. And of course, the people that they want them to come back into society to live with might not feel safe around them. So I don't really know if our security agencies have thought this through. And this is a police minister talking. Has there been a conversation also with others, including the DSS, including Homeland, and the military? Because all grounds, I guess, should be covered, shouldn't it?
Yes, definitely so. All grounds must be covered. I don't believe that they've, talked with the DSS or even the military, because the military has lost a lot of fine officers. And these guys have been killed. Even their families are still grieving. And then you bring out these people and say, we give you amnesty. I strongly believe that there is a gap. Something has to cover that gap. And that gap will be profiling them, finding out who they are, and then, of course, knowing which ones have committed crimes. Remember, in international politics that the minister was, international war that the minister was referring to, if you commit war against humanity, the International Court of Justice will definitely look at you. And so many people, including presidents, have appeared before that court and are found guilty. So it is not a matter of just somebody dropping his arms and coming in to say that, oh, he has surrendered, then you give him amnesty. Even the United States, some of the people that surrendered to the United States during the Afghanistan war, some of the Talibans are still in Guantanamo Bay, There are still about 40 of them are still locked up there while they are screening them to find out whether they are fit to be released in society or they will be serving their jail term, so to say, because where they are is more or less like a jail. So I think we should not be too hasty in letting these people out in society, because they will go out there and then we'll sit back and regret that we've allowed these people to come and hurt us again.
I think I'm curious because the average Nigerian is sitting and watching, basically not necessarily having a say in all of this, because it looks like the government or politicians are the ones who are deciding and taking, these stands. Like you said, the police chief, you think maybe has not liaised with other security chiefs. But if these things have not been clearly thought out, why is it making news? Why are people speaking on issues of national security the way it is being done? And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, once a person grants a press conference, it becomes news. We as the media, we have to report it. But if there is no communication or information control within the ranks of government, how do we even start winning this war? I know that you're not a politician, but you can help me answer this.
I am not a politician, far from it. And, we've discussed this before. The management of information, I think, is very, very poor in government today, because we should have a focal point of somebody who is supposed to make statements. When it comes to issues of security, I think the National Security Advisor should say something, or the Minister of Defense, not the Minister of Police Affairs. The Minister of Police Affairs should be telling us about internal security and what police can do.
Well, I'll tell you what the National Security Advisor has said lately. He has told IPOB that they should stay clear of the Anambra elections. Is that the most important thing that the NSA should be discussing right now?
Well, it concerns national security. It concerns national security because, when you are trying to stop the political process, it concerns national security. So, it's in place for him to tell them to stay away. If they are agitating for their own independence or whatever, I think there are other channels. And I think a lot of people in the Southeast agree to this, that there should be other channels than disrupting, or violence is not just the answer.
Interesting. Now, there was a UN report, I remember, I think it came out in August, about the Sulhu, a secret program to somewhat lure Boko Haram top leaders to surrender and to break ranks. This, according to investigators, their major concern, just like you and I have this concern, is how to ascertain whether these people are surrendering genuinely or they're being coerced to surrender because of certain things that government is offering. Now, none of us would have even known about this secret agenda of luring these Boko Haram leaders if not that the UN put out this report. So again, it looks like the moves that our government are making, or maybe the leaders and our politicians are making, might not necessarily be in the best interest of Nigerians. So I ask again, who are they consulting?
They don't have to consult any international body to take decisions about this.
No.
If I know that the military has been carrying out a lot of psychological operations, in the Northeast and even in the Northwest, because these are, a fight for the hearts and minds of the insurgents or terrorists. Whereby some of them will just be, just like they were recruited, be converted to turn around and come back to the other side. Beautiful.
But how
if they are surrendering genuinely.
Easy is that? It doesn't take one day to radicalize a terrorist. Why does the army or the Nigerian government think that it would take a snap of a finger to de-radicalize a terrorist?
It is not a snap of a finger, because the psychological operations they've been carrying out has been for years, actually, for years. And then, of course, when the military start to put the stops on them, like food, the supply chain, where they get their petrol. There was a time, there was information that they were starving, so the food chain has been stopped. And in situations like that, you find out that the rebels will want to surrender because they find out that they cannot just die there. They can just take a walk across, drop their arms, and everything will be back to normal. So they did that. That one is okay, and that is genuine. But again, you must profile them when they come in like that, because you don't know what their plans are. Like I told you, the Zamfara state governor gave amnesty to a gang. And this particular guy, the leader of the gang, after collecting money and vehicles and all, still went back to now continue what he was doing, which made the governor to say that no more, we are not going to allow this anymore. So it is very, very important, the screening. Don't allow them into society for now, because the war is not over. Keep them somewhere and let them be there while you are screening them. And then at the end of the day, if you feel that, we want to give amnesty to them, give them amnesty and let them go out and do something useful to society. But to just take them in and then let them go, give them some clothes, Indomie and all that, no, I don't think that's a proper way of doing this.
Again, the police minister had said that we as a nation have a responsibility to our citizens, and he says it's to integrate with the little that we can afford to give them, and we'll continue to monitor what they're doing in their various communities to ensure that they do not go back to their old ways. But I'd like to remind you that we had a group of Boko Haram repentant members who the federal government sponsored a program of sorts for them. The Nigerian army was the same set of people who told us that these people, some of them went back as informants to Boko Haram. So I'm asking you now, wear your security expert hats once again. How long should this process take, this processing and debriefing and getting to watch them and monitor them? And should they be monitored while they're released into the community, or should they be monitored while they are in some form of, an encampment or a place? I don't know.
You cannot monitor people that you have released into society. And that is why the man in Zamfara State went back and started his banditry again, because there is nothing you can do. How many are you going to keep there? You are going to keep some soldiers or policemen to keep surveillance on him? No, it doesn't work that way. So that's why we are suggesting that put them in a jail, in a kind of encampment where you will process them. The United States did it. It's an example to the world. Guantanamo Bay. People are still there after 40 years, 20 years. That's after the 9/11, And of course, you don't have to keep them there for forever, because as long as they are there and you are monitoring them, and then, of course, processing them, interviewing them, you have psychologists to talk to them and everything, de-radicalize them, then you can release them into society. But what we're doing now is like, even the Nigerian government is maybe tired and they want to get rid of this war. So quickly come over, let us give you amnesty and you go back to your village. That is not going to stop this, because as soon as they get back to their villages, even those they killed, the families they have displaced are there. And the animosities that will come along with that is going to cause a lot of bigger problems for the country.
Okay. I think we've been able to re-establish contact with Mr. Daya Kayode. Can you hear me, Mr. Kayode?
Yes, I'm with you.
Now, if you've been following our conversation, you must have heard what the security analyst has been saying. But let's look at this from a political perspective. Now, he just said something very striking at the end, that He feels like the government is tired of fighting this war and they would do anything to just put an end to it. But then where does that leave us as a society?
Yes. Are you hearing me now?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. You see, in the first instance, these people that are saying they want to reintegrate bandits back into society, they are going against the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Because this Constitution stipulates what should happen to anybody, any Nigerian who are caught arson, kidnapping, death, and all that within the territory called Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is what they are supposed to do to them. But as the Constitution stipulates that they should be given amnesty, no. So if you are planning to give amnesty to anybody who has made, kidnapped, killed, and grabbed people's lives, then you yourself, you are bound to be jailed. Because
but there are people who make, but there are people who have made, but Mr. Kayode, there are people who have made a case that the Niger Delta militants were kidnapping foreigners while they were agitating for what they were agitating for. And so many people point fingers to the Niger Delta and say, hey, they gave them amnesty. Why can't you give us amnesty? And I still don't, if I were to go by what you're saying, the Constitution still doesn't make room for that, does it?
Yes, I'm still going to get there. I'm going to get there. You see, some people are killing, and you are talking of reintegrate them. How about people that are going through the Constitution as regards agitation for self-determination? Self-determination agitation is entrenched in our Constitution, even though there are rules and regulations guiding engagement. That is another aspect of it. But the thing is, if till today, Nnamdi Kanu is in the custody of DSS, I don't know why we shouldn't be having all these bandits that you are planning to give amnesty to, also in the custody of DSS. Now you are now saying you want to give them amnesty. Who are these people? According to one of the governors, he said he has seen all these people and they are majorly Fulani is tribal, and these people majorly practices is religion. So where do we go from there? Are we saying because the head of government in Nigeria is Fulani, now you are now saying you want to give these people amnesty?
I do not really know if all of the guys who have been arrested or who have submitted themselves can actually be categorized as Fulani, whether they're Fulani or not. We're yet to have that information. But can we really make that assertion that they are Fulanis, really?
But a governor in other states said it, and it was all over the media that these people, over 80% of them are Fulanis, and their practices is religious. He said it. It's in the media all over the world. So based on that, are we now not saying that there's a problem? Is Kanu that is agitating not now justified for his agitation? Even though I have reservations on how he's going about it. But then he has been justified. Now, let us also go to this amnesty you want to give to them. How will you expect somebody who has killed, raped, kidnapped, collected ransom, raped people in a particular environment to now live together with the victims? Is it possible? Again, if you want to win this battle of insecurity in Nigeria, I am telling you, in reintegrating these people into the society, we make it to be more difficult. Remember, when the Americans were here to assist us, they said, look, who are the people that are leaking their information to these bandits? Because the moment they plan like this, before executing it, that thing will have gotten to those guys. Okay. And then the next thing is ambush. And those guys had to pack their bags and baggages and they left Nigeria. So if you're not saying you want to reintegrate them, on what basis do you want to reintegrate them? So for me, these are my reservations. These are my reservations. And I think the government should think twice before they do that.
And finally, before I let you go, because time is moving pretty fast, the issue, I think I had this conversation with a group of people yesterday. The fact that there are the group of people who have asked the presidency and the government, the federal government in general, to name and shame people who are financiers or people who are sponsoring this banditry or terrorism in Nigeria, and we're yet to hear anything. Even though the UAE had in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, or 2017, given us the names of 6 people who they caught, and those people, as we speak, are serving their time in the UAE prison as financiers of terrorism in Nigeria. We as a country are yet to point out those who are within the country who are financiers. Let's not also forget that under the Goodluck Jonathan administration, he did also actually accept that there were people in his government who were sponsoring Boko Haram, allegedly. Now, also, there is a report that has also made the media that there are people within the government of President Buhari that are allegedly sponsoring terrorism. The DSS had said that they also have an idea of this information, but that they're waiting on the presidency to give them a go-ahead. So the UAE, who is not necessarily receiving, at the receiving end, whose citizens are not being killed, kidnapped, or abducted, have done the needful. But here we are, we haven't done the needful. So I'll ask you, why do you think that it's taking us so long to name and shame if we do know these people?
Yes, you see, these are part of what I have been saying. Now, they sent in some names of financiers from abroad to us. How many days now? What have we done? Nothing. 2, remember, about some few months back, some 400 Nigerians were pinned down. And they were said to be financiers of these insurgents in Nigeria. And then be prosecuted. I could remember Chief Emi Falano, SAS, saying that, look, Mr. Attorney General, these people, you have known them, you have seen them. What are you waiting for to prosecute them? Why are you not prosecuting them now? You see, these are all the things that are playing together. That makes me to say the other time, I don't know whether on your platform or another one, that look, fighting insecurity in Nigeria is beyond changing of service chiefs. We are not saying you shouldn't change your service chief, but it's beyond changing service chiefs. Not until when the president decides to change his philosophy, decide to change his body language as regards fighting his country in this country. We're going to get nowhere. No little wonder, Amanpo of CNN said, when the leadership of this country has refused to arrest, to prosecute, and punish anybody, since all these days are regard insecurity breach in this country, then that means they are an accomplice. Little wonder, Abacha.
But can you really say that the government is outrightly refusing? It doesn't seem, Mr. Kayode, it doesn't seem that the government is refusing. I mean, you may think so, but does it really seem that the government is refusing? Because the government is doing stuff, they're talking. But when you say the government has outrightly refused, it means that there must have been a press statement saying we cannot do anything about Boko Haram to attend to reason. When you put all the circumstances in this country together, we have no other thing to say that they are an accomplice. Let me give you an analogy. Look at that your office. Look at that your office. As progressive as a television station is, the moment new employments are being made, and then you start seeing some infractions as regards rules of engagement in that office, and the leadership
is seeing it, your MD or whatever, or your chairman is seeing it, and it's not saying anything. And the report is bringing it to him, and the thing is even affecting his personal assistant. And he refused to do anything about it. Then he is an accomplice. Then he knows about it. Okay. So if we can go for that analogy, then we can deduce the kind of relationship we can say this leadership of our country is having with the bandits in this country.
Okay, we have to go, but quickly, Mr. Makri, we're almost, we have 2 more years for the Buhari administration to, elapse. And I always say this every single time I have a conversation about insecurity in the country. I remember that this is, one of the tripods on which his government came into being. Do we see him being able to at least deal with or scratch the surface of dealing with this now multi-headed monster? Because first it was just Boko Haram, but now we have all sorts of lone gunmen and now the bandits and all sorts of terrorism. Do we see him at least dealing with this issue before he leaves office? Or is it going to forever be on the tag or the name tag of Mr. President that he never was able to deal with insecurity, the one which he campaigned that he was going to deal with?
I think the president has said it himself. He said when he had a meeting with the service chiefs, he told them that he's not going to leave office as a failure. And that means that they have to all be on their toes. And of course, yesterday we had the Chief of Army Staff, during the Chief of Army Staff conference, re-echoing what the president said, that we are not going to accept failure. And strongly, I can tell you this, if there is the political will, this war is not going to last for more than 1 or 2 months, But we are having new revelations of how many bandits are in this country, in the ungoverned spaces in this country. And then, of course, half of the job is done. We now know where they are and some of their leaders. And the military has the resolve, the security agencies, I don't have any doubt in me that they are going to clean them out.
Okay.
So let's hope. 2 years is a long time when it comes to politics, and anything could happen.
So you're telling me, it sounds like you're saying that we're politicizing this war, and that's why it's lingering. But anyway, Dennis Makri is former Deputy Director for the DSS, and Dayo Kayode is a political technocrat. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we look into the plea by the PDP governors to the National Assembly to rescue Nigeria's democracy. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker
that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 I dey pay.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
The People's Democratic Party (PDP) Governors Forum on Tuesday pleaded with the National Assembly to rescue Nigeria's democracy by passing the necessary amendments to the Electoral Act. Specifically, the forum urged the lawmakers to rise above partisan politics to pass the amendment to allow for the electronic transfer of election results. Well, joining us to discuss this is communications analyst Ihechukwu Ibeji and the national chairman of PANDEF, Mr. Emmanuel Ibowesin. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
All right.
Thank you very much. But my name is Senator Emmanuel Ibowesin.
Senator, all right. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm definitely starting with you, Senator, because these are your colleagues or your former colleagues. We know the row that Nigerians had over the issue of the electronic transmission of results in the Electoral Act, the one that is being amended as we speak. And we hoped that the National Assembly would change or retrace, its steps on that particular issue. But here we are again. The National Assembly is resuming. Several billions have been put in place, actually, to be given to Mr. President because he has asked for it. And, of course, the National Assembly is supposed to okay it for Mr. President. And that's fine. Borrowing is part of the system. But the most important thing, which is 2023, which every Nigerian is most interested in, and making sure that we have free, fair, and credible elections, is on the table. What direction do you see the National Assembly going on this particular issue?
Good evening, listeners. Having been a leader in the National Assembly, a former deputy chief whip in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the process of lawmaking is sometimes cumbersome. And it is, as usual, for the legislators to concentrate and be focused, especially and avoid partisan politics when law is going to be made. In terms of the Electoral Act that was amended, it's like some party wanted the act to favor them. And because they have majority in the National Assembly, they tend to go in the direction which would aid them to rig election. They are afraid of electronic voting and electronic transmission of results.
When you say a certain party, I mean, the National Assembly is made up of both the APC and the PDP. And whether we like it or not, a lot more of the people in the opposition also okayed the removal of that particular part of the act. So is this really a party thing, or it's just a politician's perspective?
It was more of a party thing, because the PDP is confident that with electronic voting and electronic transmission of results, that every individual's vote will count. And we are confident in PDP that PDP will win under a very free and fair election.
Again.
Yes.
Whether the PDP is confident or not, we did not see that confidence. We did not see that fight. We did not see that push when it came to this particular issue. It seemed like, I mean, I'm wondering, as a politician, if it's going to benefit you that the results are not transmitted live at the polling unit, why would you want to push for it? And this is something that both the APC and the PDP has benefited from in the past.
No. But you would have noticed that almost all the PDP members in the National Assembly supported electronic voting, because they are confident that with electronic voting, they will make it back to the National Assembly. You see, when you are not transmitting election results electronically, the chances are that you just go and manipulate the results of the elections at the units. But if it is transmitted right at the units to the collation center, the chances are that it's almost zero that you cannot manipulate. Okay. Look at what was happening in IDPs. They just announce whatever they feel like announcing without people voting. So it is only through electronic voting and electronic transmission of results that we, the PDP, can be confident in the system and democracy can be sustained.
Okay, so I take it that you're speaking for the PDP, but let me go to Ibechi. Ibechi, it's interesting that we see a dynamic in the National Assembly, and this is the subject of my argument and my push for the second speaker. But you're obviously not a politician. You're the average Nigerian. You're the one who wants to go to the polling unit and make sure that your vote counts. I always like to make reference to the fact that we've seen a serious decline in the number of people who are interested in not just voting, but also even registering. There's been a re-registration process going on online with INEC. And we also are seeing that there's a decline. Look at what happened during the local government elections here in Lagos State. We barely saw anybody. And we also know that, I've heard a lot of Nigerians say that if we have this form of results transmission, we probably have more confidence in the electoral process. But now that the National Assembly is reconvening, what are we supposed to do to continue to pressure them to bring back this to the table and reconsider?
Okay, so thank you very much. I think that originally, before the bill, when the committee that looked at the bill had made those amendments where it suggested the Senate committee had looked at the amendment of that bill, where it suggested that it could only approve for electronic voting based on the National Nigerian Communications Commission's ability to, of course, approve that there's coverage, enough coverage, and the National Assembly's approval. When that thing had come out, there was a lot of pressure from different human rights organizations, so much so that when they reconvened, I recall that the Senate president had complained about, when he was receiving the Electoral Act amendment, he had complained about what he had called calculated blackmail against the leadership of the National Assembly by mischief makers. So, I mean, that on one part should clearly not take away the power of the people to speak in this kind of matters. Now, coming right down to them voting along different party lines, I recall also that I think it was 28 senators to 53 who voted that those amendments should start or thereabout. Now, what it speaks to me, in essence, is if I clearly, is that it was not exactly along party lines, so to speak, but it was more or less along the lines that favored them, along the lines that spoke to what it would be, as in if the way it works is that, I mean, if the election votes have been counted and then they are electronically transmitted, it goes a long way to extinguish rigging. If you recall, even during the Edo State elections, the INEC came up with a new innovation where there was the viewing panel or viewing center where people could see the results that as they were being transmitted. And, it helped the elections a lot. So these are the things, the advantages that we speak about in this kind of scenario. Electronic transmission of results in every way possible should be left smack in the hands and decision of INEC. And that's one of the things that, of course, makes INEC independent.
But INEC has also come out, Ibechi, to say, we can do this. We do not even understand why we have to report to the NCC. I have had INEC officials on this show over and over again, reiterating and restating that they can do it. They have displayed that they have been able to do it in different places in this country, and they're very certain that it can work. So we all go back to the National Assembly and ask why. So even though the National Assembly is not answering us, my question is, and you have not really answered me, how do we pressure them to bring back this issue to the table? Because we can't just keep jaw-jawing about it and not making moves.
The PDP, by this report, is doing a good job. But the human rights organizations, the organizations who have always been pressuring them, need to continue to put that pressure so that they understand that our eyes are on them. And these are the pressures we're talking about. They need to pressure them from their representatives, those who are representing them, the people in their locality, to reach out to them and pressure them. They need to let them understand that, look, we are for transmission of electronic transmission of results because it will favor us, because it will make the elections free and fair to a large extent, because it will show INEC as independent. And it's very, very important that we achieve this. The pressure must continue. And the pressure is something that is normal. You lobby your senators, lobby your House of Rep members to be on their toes, to understand that this is the wish of the people. If you recall, as I said before, the people had lobbied them and pressured them earlier on for them not to have passed it in the first place. And that pressure has sustained it up to now. So what the PDP has done is to bring this to fore. What we need to do is for people, human rights organizations, individuals with the interest of free and fair elections in their mode, to continue to put those kind of subtle pressure on them to understand that this is the wish of the people and will guarantee a free and fair election in 2023. And that is just what it's going to be, basically. That is what I see that should be. Yeah.
Senator Ibarosian, we also know that it would definitely benefit certain people if Nigerians get to that level of voter apathy that they no longer are interested and they resign to fate. It would definitely benefit some people, plus the fact that the issue of electronic transfer of results is still a debate of sorts. But as the PDP, because you seem to be speaking as a member of the PDP, what will the PDP be pushing for? Yes, they're not the majority right now, but what will the PDP be pushing for? Because it looks like this might be a done deal. And looking at the body language of all our politicians, you included, sir, no matter how we scream and cry and kick in this country, politicians and government do whatever they want to do. What's the guarantee that this will take a different turn?
Like I said, the the best for democracy is for electronic transmission of results. That would be the best for this country. And like my friend has said, it is not only the party that this is affecting, it also affects the electorate, the individual who wants to have a free and fair election. It affects him, and therefore it is something that everybody must stand up. Our party is standing up already for it, for the electronic transmission of results, the PDP. And I believe if every Nigerian stands up, because that's sometimes the language that government hears, that even members of the National Assembly will hear. If everybody stands up on their right, because it is the right of the voter to make sure that his vote counts.
Okay.
And therefore, it is the responsibility of everybody. But as PDP, we are already standing up to make sure we push for electronic voting.
All right.
As far as our party is concerned.
All right, we have to go, unfortunately, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Ihechukwu Ibeji is a communications analyst, and Senator Emmanuel Ibogosin is the national chairman of PANDEF. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of this conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right. We will take a short break to see how Nigerians believe Nigeria's democracy can be saved. And when we come back, I'll be saying my goodbyes.
I was talking about democracy in this country. Democracy does not exist in Nigeria anymore right now because, bro, a country that forgives bandits and terrorists, but they go after peaceful protesters and, you know, people fighting for their rights and everything. There's no democracy in Nigeria. I don't think Nigeria democracy can be saved like this. And currently, I feel two things will save this country the way it is. Like, it's either separation or revolution, because let's not deceive ourselves. 2023, another person that we don't want will still be there. So what's the point? Let's just separate, or let's get this country back.
Well, I think for us to get it right, young people need to participate in politics. We need to encourage youths, particularly those below the age of 35, to start participating in politics, partisan politics first, and then when they get nominated as representatives of these political parties, they can now be able to, you know, contest elections and win elections. We need younger people in the system. We need people that understand what globalization is about, industrialization is about, what the issues they are in the country, and how best to find solutions to them.
Well, first and foremost, our leaders should avoid godfatherism, because the politics is politics of putting round pegs in square holes. That's one of the major problems. Everybody wants his own brother, his own sister to be at the helms of affairs. Definitely, they pay their way into governance. Paying their way means you have to buy the electorate. Buying the electorate will now give you an edge over them. Whatever you are doing, nobody has any, let's say, the ability to question what you are doing, whether you are right or wrong. The government does not have a say of the people into consideration.
Well, we want to say thank you for being part of the conversation tonight. Tomorrow is another day. We'll be talking for development. I am Mary Anacone. Have a good evening.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with